They fired me for a bowl of soup. The word fired didn't come out as a whisper. It cracked across the Harbor Light diner like a plate hitting tile, and for a second all I could hear was the fryer hissing and my own heartbeat. Denise, our manager with a clipboard for a spine, squared her shoulders and said loud enough for the booths to hear, "Haley Brooks, you are terminated for breaching Policy 12C. Hand over your apron." I had 7 crumpled dollars in my palm, still warm from my tips. That money was supposed to be gas, bread, maybe the copay on my kid's inhaler. And I'd used it to pay for a stranger's stew because he looked like the kind of hungry you feel in your bones. In the corner booth, the man stared at the table like it could swallow him whole. Someone coughed, a fork clinked. And just like that, I wasn't a waitress anymore, just a woman holding an apron that suddenly weighed 100 pounds. Rewind to that morning, 5:10 a.m. Baltimore still dark, my phone screaming, my lower back arguing with God. I tiptoed past my son Noah, asleep with his nebulizer on the nightstand. Kissed his forehead, tasted the salt of yesterday's tears, wrote the lunch note, "Love you. Be brave." Then I put on the canary yellow uniform that never stopped smelling like fryer oil, tied my hair back and told the mirror, "Smile like your rent depends on it, because it does." The Harbor Light hums before sunrise, cooks slapping bacon on the flat top, the dish pit clattering my friend Shay, juggling mugs like a circus act. Denise stalked the tiles, counting seconds like pennies. "You're 90 seconds late, Haley," she said without looking up. 90 seconds cost this company money. I wanted to tell her 90 seconds cost my kid his breakfast when I pick up a double, but I nodded and went to refill coffee for the table that tips in nickels and advice. By noon, my feet burned and my smile felt stapled on. Then the bell over the door jingled and a man stepped in who made everyone else look away. Worn coat, careful hands, eyes the blue of old glass. He hovered like he wasn't sure he was allowed to exist inside a warm room. Denise clocked him like a hawk and started toward the door. "Not today," written in the crease of her mouth. I beat her there with a menu and my best Sunday school smile. "Morning," I said soft as I could. "Booth by the window." "Okay." He nodded, surprised like I'd offered him a throne. Denise's heels froze on tile. You could feel the temperature drop. "Coffee?" I asked. "Water," he said, voice rasped down to gravel. "Please." When I came back, he hadn't opened the menu. He was looking past me at the Harbor Light, blinking like a patient heartbeat. "What's the cheapest thing that'll fill me up?" he asked without meeting my eyes. "We do a dock worker's stew at staff meal," I said, dropping my voice. "It's not on the menu, but the pot's big today. Bread on the side. I can get you a bowl for 6. His eyes lifted. It wasn't joy. It was relief, like the moment you find your keys in the freezer, and you don't even care how they got there. "Yes," he said. "Thank you. I've worked that floor long enough to know what kindness costs. It costs minutes you're supposed to spend turning tables. It costs the frown Denise wears like a name tag. It costs you the good section on Saturdays. But it gives you something back too, the way an old woman smiles when you read her the specials, because the print is too small, the way a kid plays with the crayons you slide across the table, so his mama can breathe for 5 minutes. So I kept his water full and pretended not to notice Denise tapping her watch like a metronome for anxiety. When he finished, he patted his pockets, front-back jacket, and I watched the color drain out of him. I can't find my wallet," he said, each word like it cut on the way out. "I must have lost it on the bus. I'm so sorry. I can wash dishes. Or Policy 12C says, do not engage. Signal your manager. Maintain control of the asset. I've seen that policy weaponized on teenagers with split checks and moms counting out quarters, and I've watched people leave smaller than they walked in." I looked at him, then at the picture in my head of Noah wheezing in an ER under fluorescent lights, and I did the math. Nobody pays you to do. "Stay put," I murmured. "I'll take care of it." I slid my fingers into the hidden pocket of my apron, unfolded my day. So far a 5-2-1s, a handful of hope, and walked to the register. My hands were shaking, but the plan was simple. Ring it as cash, tuck the money into the drawer. No one loses a cent. No one loses their dignity. What are you doing, Haley? Not a question. Denise stood behind me like a storm you can smell. She saw the bills in my hand, saw the open drawer, put two and two together, and called it a crime. She recited the policy like scripture. Employee funds shall not be commingled with company revenue, and when I tried to explain, her voice only got louder. This isn't a charity. You've undermined my authority. Turn in your apron. I begged, not proud, not pretty. Please, Denise. My son needs. You should have thought of your son before you broke the rules, she said, and it wasn't just cold. It was satisfied. Someone at the back left a 20 under the water glass in the corner booth. A quiet act too late to save me. I walked home with my empty hands tucked into useless pockets and counted the steps to keep from crying. At our third-floor walk-up, I couldn't get the key into the lock because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I sat on the couch, stared at Noah's Lego spaceship on the rug, and thought about David. My husband, 5 years gone, a line cook who'd baked a birthday cake from pantry odds and ends for a dishwasher's kid and got blacklisted for inventory theft. Same company, then different manager, same cold heart. That night I let myself be angry, the kind of anger that starts in your chest and tastes like pennies. I wasn't mad at soup. I was mad at a machine that grinds people to keep the gears clean, and then I slept like a person who has no more options. The next morning, the diner went white noise quiet when the door swung open and a man in a charcoal suit stepped in with two people flanking him. I wasn't there to see it, not yet, but everyone told me later. Denise started her welcome to Harbor Light speech and swallowed the last word because the man was already looking around like he owned the place. Because he did. Good morning, he said, voice low, steady. We met yesterday. You met me as someone else. My name is Victor Hale. I run Northbridge Hospitality Group. Denise dropped her coffee. The cup shattered like the moment right before a car crash. She went pale enough to match the plates. And then my phone rang. Ms. Brooks, the voice asked. Softer now. Warmer. This is Victor. You helped me yesterday. I need you to come down to the diner. I owe you an apology. And we have something to fix. I thought it was a prank until a car pulled up outside my building that looked borrowed from a movie set. In the back seat, I practiced breathing. At the diner, the place felt different, silent, expectant like church before the first chord. Victor stood there in that suit, but the eyes were the same as yesterday. Blue, tired human. He met me halfway between the counter and the window. Haley, he said, not Mr. Brooks, or ma'amish pity. I am sorry. What happened in this room wasn't just wrong. It was the consequence of a culture I built. I watched you do the decent thing, and I let you take the hit because a consultant told me not to break character. That ends today. Denise tried to say policy, and Victor lifted a hand. We wrote that policy, he said, looking at me, not her, and I signed it. Then I looked at your file last night and I found your husband's name, David Brooks. We fired him for kindness, too. We taught managers to worship margins and ignore people. That's on me. I couldn't think of a speech, so I said the truest thing I had. I fed a hungry man. That's supposed to be the easiest part of this job. It will be, he said, if you help me make it so. He didn't offer me my job back. He said I deserved better. He talked about building a new arm of the company, not for PR, not to slap a bandage on a brand, but to do the slow, stubborn work of changing the rules. We're calling it the Neighbor Program, he said, glancing at the staff who drifted closer. Emergency funds for employees in trouble. Manager training that rewards empathy. A policy overhaul that won't make you choose between kindness and a paycheck. I need someone who knows the floor and knows what it costs to care. I want you to lead it. I laughed, one of those shaky laughs that sneaks out when your life takes a corner too fast. Victor, I'm a waitress. I don't know how to run anything bigger than a 7-top. You ran yesterday, he said, right into the fire. That's leadership. We'll teach you the rest. You'll have a team, a salary that makes Noah's medicine a shrug, not a spreadsheet, an office if you want one. But mostly, you'll have a mandate to make sure what happened to David, what happened to you, never happens here again. Denise sat down hard on a stool, like the air had been pulled from the room. Shay wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Somewhere near the pass, the cooks pretended not to listen, and then didn't bother pretending. I thought about the photo of David taped to our refrigerator flour on his nose the night he made a cake for a kid turning 7. I thought about Noah's tiny chest stuttering when he laughs too hard. I thought about the 20-someone left under a water glass, about the quiet chorus of people who want the world to be gentler and don't know where to start. "Okay," I said, and it felt like the first breath after a long dive. "Let's fix it." We sat in a booth, not boss and employee, but two people who'd messed up in different directions and mapped a beginning on a napkin. HR took notes. Legal swallowed hard. The staff exhaled. Victor told Denise she would get training or a generous exit. She nodded small for the first time since I'd known her. The harbor light blinked steady as ever, like it had been waiting for us to remember how to be. Look, I can't turn this into a neat parable where all the bad guys learn ballet and all the bills pay themselves. Real change is slow and mean and full of meetings. But the next time a hungry person sits at a table in one of our diners, I want the easiest choice to be the right one. Feed them. Figure it out. Be human first. If you were here watching, would you have fired me for $6 or broken the rule for a stranger? Tell me in the comments what you think is right when policy collides with people. Where do you draw the line? What have you seen and what would you change? Like this, if you believe kindness should never cost a person their livelihood, share it with someone who needs a little proof that decency still matters, and hit subscribe, because the more of us who show up, the faster we pull this thing in the right direction.